Should we start? Okay.
Yep.
3, 2, 1. Hello, guys. I hope everyone's doing well. Welcome to our DSC Networking and Communications Workshop. Today's speakers are our two external relations co-leads, Helen and Salman, and our two junior external relations co-leads, myself and Hamrish. Today's workshop will be broken down into 4 subcategories. We will first talk about email timing, and then language, then move on to email etiquette, and last but not least, we will be going over a couple of tips and pointers you can use to streamline your emailing routine. Now, what is networking? Networking has to do with anything and everything about communicating in the professional workspace. This can include emailing your professors, reaching out to potential or current employers, potential sponsors, and so much more. To start off, we're going to be talking about email timing. So, when sending an email, one thing that you always have to be aware of and have at the front of your mind is the timing of your email. In order to maximize your chances of getting a response, there are a couple of important things you need to keep in mind. To start off, if you're emailing about an urgent or time-sensitive topic, and you know that you will be needing to send the email out beforehand, it is always a good idea to send the email earlier than needed to give the recipient adequate time to receive your message and draft a response. Another thing you should keep in mind when sending the email is the time of day it is being sent. Sending an email during an appropriate time of day is one thing you can start to implement to ensure that you receive a response. Many people have busy email inboxes and therefore usually check their emails once in the morning and maybe once in the evening. Now, this isn't a hard set in stone rule, but it's the most common scenario with the typical email recipient. The example of this can be when emailing a professor. It's most probable that during the day they're going to be busy with teaching, so when it comes to checking their email, it's probably done once in the morning. We can use this to our advantage and schedule our emails to be sent on early in the morning in order to increase the chance that they come across the email early on. A couple of things that you should keep in mind when reaching out are the following. If you don't hear back within a week of sending your email, it is a good idea to send a follow-up email. If you don't hear back in 2 to 3 weeks of sending up your follow-up email, you can try a different method of contact to reach out. Gmail have an amazing emailing tool that allows you to schedule email and when it is being sent. It's extremely simple to use. It's available on the web browser and the mobile application. On the web browser, all you have to do is click the little arrow as seen in the previous slide and click schedule send. On the mobile application, the 3 dots on the top right, click schedule send. Now we're going to be talking about language and Helen will be taking over.
Hi, so I'm going to talk about language and formality. It's very important when composing your emails. So the first thing you want to know is about addressing the person for the first time. So when you're addressing someone for the first time, you always want to go by their formal name. So for instance, if they have a title given, such as professor or doctor, you can start off with that. And then you should use their family name as the last name. But something to keep in mind is that if someone is more casual with you, you want to match that tone. Say you know this person more or they respond in more casual tone. And you want to mirror that because it's not good to be stiff. It just keeps the conversation flowing better. Something also to keep in mind is you want to be gender neutral. If you don't know this person's gender, it's good to be inclusive in the workplace. So when you're addressing them, their last name or their first name should suffice. And then as well, you need to there's no need to specify a marriage status. So if you do know their gender, you can use Mr. or Miss as specified in the slides we have here. A good tip is that if you're reaching out to a company and you don't know who to reach out to, you can reach out to the HR department or a recruiter. You can find them through LinkedIn, Google, or even the company website. So some basic rules and tips are you never want to use casual speaking words or slang such as lit, fam. I could go on, I don't want to. And you never use short form of words either. So you never want to use the letter U instead of YOU. And you want to do this because first of all, you want to come off as educated, right? That's more professional. And second of all, like English might not be someone's first language. The person might be older. There could be a number of reasons. And you just want to make sure that they can understand what you're trying to say. Some resources you could use to help check your spelling and grammar or Grammar Check or Grammarly. And these are things you can find online with a whole host of other resources as well. And lastly, you want to be polite, short, and concise. So don't use run-on sentences and don't explain complex ideas because if they were interested, they would email you with further questions. And lastly, for your email composition, you want to follow 3 different segments. So you have an introduction using the addressing we talked about earlier. You greet this person, you say hello, good morning, doctor, professor, last name. And then you want to say your relevancy to the email. So your name, your relevant position, and a line or two of your background or a club you're representing's background. And you can insert any relevant, prominent, and or impressive facts. So when I used to be a part of RoboMasters, I would insert that, RoboMasters was first in promotions in North America. Anything that's really relevant or catches the reader's attention is good too. And then the middle portion of the email, you're going to do the who, what, when, where, why. And you're going to place that in that portion of the email. So you're going to say why you're contacting them. Again, short and concise. And then you're going to do a small blurb on details regarding your request and, most importantly, how they can contribute. And then finally, you have an outro. So this is your polite exit. You want to thank them for their time and how they can reach you. So if you have an email, a phone number, etc. And then you can insert a Google signature, which is something we'll discuss later.
So this is an example of a very good standard email template. You can see a clear, distinct subject line that encompasses the message of the email. There's a nice intro heading where you say, "Hey, dear potential sponsor," and the body of the email itself is split up into multiple distinct paragraphs, each with their own point. Finally, there's the nice conclusion with a thank you, and there's a signature involving your name, the organization you're part of, and your affiliation with an organization, just so the reader will know who the email came from precisely. Following that, here's an example of a not good email. So you can tell from the outside of the grammar errors and the choice of words, it's very poor. But there are specific things that'll stand out from the get-go. That includes, a subject line that's completely unrelated to the body of the email, right? Like chances are, we'll get more into the details of that later. But also the introduction, not just saying hey, but it's also a good practice to introduce the email to a person's name, because it's very common that emails will be CC'd or forwarded down the road. Having the message attached to a name right there, it just makes it a lot easier down the road. Also, keeping the messages of the having distinct paragraphs for each messages will make it easier reading it and avoiding wall of text. Finally, signatures. It's always good to thank the reader, but also include a signature of who you are and which organization the email came from. So that'll lead into etiquettes for relations. Subject line is very important and often not underlooked point. So you want to keep your subject lines as few words about the core purpose of your email. So recipients will often open your email with the expectation of the subject. So don't use it as, don't mislead, keep it to the point, keep it simple. And a way to think about it is that an effective subject line is what the recipient will search to find your email down the road. So if your recipient doesn't, reply as soon as they open it, a subject line is a good way that they can find it back again. So keeping to the point and avoid walls of text. Efficient letters will deliver the message faster, so you're more likely to get a quicker response to a shorter email compared to an essay. And for yourself, it's just easier to keep track of your own message delivery if you have a shorter email. So longer emails tend to be rambling. So always think twice and write once. But also keep it as a balancing act. So you want to show your full interest and your passion in your words by highlighting the key points. Don't take away from that. Overall, just respect the reader's time, but make sure your message is delivered effectively. Finally, signatures. The goal of the signature is to provide an identity of who and where the email originated from. So be sure to include the organization, your affiliation within the organization, and your name itself. Some organizations have themes. So if you're a company or if you're a club and there's a theme to the signature, follow it. It'll just, help with the signature goal as overall. Also, for people who have used your own personal email for many things, or your university email, you can have the option to choose and pick which signature you want to do. So outreach for a club versus responding to a professor and including your student number and student ID, or just personal things. You can have each of your own signatures contain different things that would make it easier for the recipient.
Great. So the final topic we'll be going over today is organization. And specifically, we'll be taking a look at how to take advantage of one of Google's most used tools, Gmail. So let's talk about why organizing your email is so important. Regularly going through that mail and getting rid of the stuff that you just don't need helps you to be more organized, and it allows you to retrieve those really important messages a lot quicker, especially when you need them the most. So there have been many times where me personally, I've missed an important email because I had multiple emails from random websites that I just forgot to unsubscribe to that really cluttered my mailbox. And I'm sure many of you have also experienced similar situations. Additionally, with the current climate that we've been forced to adapt to with COVID, online management has become even more important. So being able to set up a system where you're able to easily find past emails, past appointments and dates, past just people in general, it's becoming even more crucial. So with that being said, let's get into some features that you may or may not have heard of within Gmail that I guarantee will specifically aid you in your ability to reach out to companies in an effective manner. And there will be a demo for each of these features right after the explanation. So I encourage you to follow along and implement some of these features for yourself. So for the first feature that we've got, relevant emails at the top. So Gmail has a great feature that allows you to select what type of emails you'd like as soon as it enters your inbox. And so for our first demonstration, let's take a look at how you can do this. So the way you can choose what type of emails appear at the top is by first going to those settings. And for the remainder of the demos, please ignore my emails. But you can click on the gear icon on the top of your screen and you can scroll down to when you see inbox type. Gmail has many different features that you can pick and choose from. Right now I have it set to default, but many professionals suggest the use of the priority inbox that will just ensure that the emails that are most important are always going to the top of your inbox right away. A really cool feature is you're able to customize it as well to your liking, which is really nice. So the next feature we have is great. So the next feature that we have is the ability to create labels. So labels are so important when you're able to position the specific emails that you wish in one specific category. Many emails will have the same theme, the same goal, or just the same subject in general. And you'd want to put these all in one category so that it's really easy to access later on. So we can show this in Gmail itself as well. So the way you'll do this is you can head on over to the left menu that Gmail has, and you'll be able to scroll down and you'll find an option called More. You'll want to click on More, and that'll show you many different options that you can choose from. For the purpose of this demonstration, we're interested in the Create New Label feature. A bunch of fields will appear where you can choose how you'd like to customize your label based on the label that you're trying to create. So for the example here, we can create a new label. We can call it something like, let's say, sample label. And then once we've created that, we need to choose which section it's going to fall underneath. Right here, we've chosen primary, and so we've created that label. The next feature we have is going to be talking about being able to remove these unused tabs. So there are tabs in Gmail that you may have no use for. They might just clutter your inbox and really serve no purpose. And Gmail allows you to be able to remove these so that you're only seeing the tabs that are relevant to what you want to see. And so for our final demonstration, let's take a look at how you can implement this. So we're going to go back to settings, similar to the first example with our inbox types. And once we click on the settings on the top, we're going to choose the See All Settings option to get all the settings available to Gmail. Once we've been redirected there, we're going to see that Labels tab, and we want to select that. And here you can see all of the tabs that Gmail has stored, as well as the categories and the labels. If you wanted to, you could also create a new label here. That is also an option. But for the purpose of this demonstration, we can see that there are many different options. You can choose whether you want to show a specific tab or hide a specific tab. And this really comes in handy, especially when I was talking about before, where you can reduce the clutter that your inbox has. The final feature we'll be talking about is filtering mail. And this is Gmail's way of creating rules in order to handle how incoming mail is processed and featured. So the first kind of step to this is you can filter emails. by going to the search engine of your Gmail tab, and you can filter these emails by subject, by sender, by recipient, and by the content itself. And now once you've created this filter, you can actually choose what you want to do with it. So you can see the picture on the bottom left part of the slide, and there's so many different features. Among them are being able to label all of these emails, set a particular priority, organize them, or you can just archive them in case you have no use for them, but you don't want to permanently get rid of them. And so we've seen here there are 4 features, and there are many other features that Gmail has that can really set you up for success when it comes to organizing your emails and organizing the way that you have your Gmail set up. And so with that being said, that's all for the content that we have for you today. We'd like to thank you for listening, and we hope that you're able to take at least one point when it comes to being the most professional you can be when reaching out to companies. Before we end, we'd like to extend a service on the behalf of our external relations team. We are going to be sending a Google form through the chat window right now, that Helen has just sent in, where you'll be able to send in an email template or a LinkedIn message template that you'd like to get peer reviewed. So the purpose of the email can be for whatever you like. Maybe you're also reaching out to companies for sponsorships. Maybe you're just looking for an opportunity to reach out to specific companies for co-ops and other. This can be an email, it can be a LinkedIn message, whatever you'd like. If you're comfortable, you can send in the message, and one of us will take a look, peer edit it, and send it right back to you with any suggestions and tips that we have. And that's all. Does anyone have any questions?
And if there are no questions, feel free to leave the call and join some other DSC events that we have going on. I think we're good, Ariba. Thanks, Shardul.